Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. Alright, today is an unusual question. I think this is more of a lesson that was sent in to us by Bob Chips. And before I read what Bob had to say, as you know, in many of these dailies, I've always said that everything I tell you on these dailies in terms of the setup, the swing, and everything else, we have parameters in which you can move around a little bit and find out what works best for you. In other words, nothing is 100% gospel, all right? Because even, we're all human beings, but we have different abilities, and as I say, sometimes liabilities, all right? And the beauty of the Peak Performance Golf Swing is that we have some wiggle room in there, parameters that I call that I can adjust people's setups, and I can make adjustments in their swing. Their setup makes an adjustment in the swing that allows them to, whatever abilities or disabilities, liabilities they have, to make a good golf swing, okay? And so one of the things I've always said is to keep your mind open and take what I say and experiment with you. Like, for example, one of the biggest ones would be how much flair you have in your feet, okay? So that can make a difference. So you can experiment with opening up or more one foot or the other or both, okay? Which will allow you more freedom if you got bad ankles or bad knees to turn, okay? So Bob came up with, he sent a letter in, and he's actually answering or giving us another idea for a video, the daily I did a while back, where a lady wrote in and she had issues with her finish, okay? And I'll explain it here, and I'll add a little bit more to this at the end. So this is basically tips for Surgites from a Surgite, okay? And that Surgite is Bob Chips giving this tip. He said, Don, this is for the woman who couldn't T-finish her swing as you discussed in the T-finish video. I had a similar problem when I first started using the swing method. My solution was to assume the perfect finish position and slowly swing the club back from there to the top of the backswing. And in one continuous motion, swing back to the finished position. Keep repeating this, gradually increasing the tempo until it begins to feel natural. All right, so this is what Bob's saying. In the T video lesson, I talked about thinking about swinging up to the T finish and learning that position. Because every time, as I've said over and over, when I take practice swings, I get into the exact position and the posture and everything I need for the shot I'm trying to hit with the club I'm trying to use. Okay? And my whole goal is to make sure that once I get up to the top of my backswing, I'm swinging to the T finish to feel it. And I feel that finish and how I got there. And if I say that's it, then I step up to the ball and I swing that feel. So what Bob is saying now, let's start all the way at the T finish and then take the club back and get up and then go back up to the T finish. Maybe stop and hold it a little bit. 1, 2, 3. This is where I want to be. Recoil. But we don't want to recoil at this moment. You might recoil, but then take it back up to the top. Swing back up to the top of your backswing and then swing back to the T finish. All right? Back to your backswing. Back to your T finish. Okay? That's what Bob is saying. I think we could actually call that reverse engineering learning body movement, okay? Reverse engineering learning body movement. So, again, I'm going to say, my solution was to assume the perfect finish position and slowly swing the club back from there to the top of the finish position. Keep repeating this, gradually increasing the tempo until it begins to feel natural. And I guess maybe it would be good to increase the tempo to where you're finally making whatever club in your hand, you're making a swing that would be used for hitting a full normal golf shot with that club. Because you're also learning balance and you're learning and timing and tempo. I used to do this before every single full shot just to remind me of what the swing should feel like. It struck me how doing this made all the components of the swing work together. In other words, starting the swing from the finish position teaches you where the swing plane must be to achieve that position in the upswing. Great thought. Again, I've said many times, when you do this, you start to feel your path and your plane. Well, and I always said that once you get and you swing to a perfect finish, it's like setting out a railroad track to get there. So again, Bob's talking about, it gives you that sense of that path and plane from this direction. And then once you start just learning it up and down from both ways, you get up and then you come down, man, that just cements it both ways. So Again, I'm going to read what he said. It struck me that doing this made all the components of the swing work together. In other words, starting the swing from the finished position teaches you where the swing plane must be to achieve that position in the upswing. Again, it's reverse engineering stuff. It just grooves the swing into the right place. Worked for me, maybe this swing thought would help someone else groove their swing. Thank you, Bob. And I'm going to use this as a public service announcement to say that if you've had problems with anything in the swing, and you thought about it, you put your mind in terms of seeing in your mind what you want to do, feeling what's happening, and found a solution for you in your brain that helps you achieve some part of the swing or the totality of the swing, send them in like this. I'd love to pass them on. All right? Because remember, we all sense and think and see things differently in our mind too. So sometimes, I've said this in the past, sometimes some folks need to actually feel and do something radically. Like in my mind, like I say about the verticalness of the swing, to get in the mitt and up the tree, and in the mitt and up the tree here. In my mind, I feel like I'm almost swinging the club straight up and down like this, to make sure that I'm staying vertical enough and the club is in that light position. So sometimes we have to think outside of the box. All right? Once you know what you want to do, you got to figure out a way that your mind can see it in your mind, sense it in your mind, feel it in your mind to make your body move. Because remember, nothing happens in your hands and in your body until your brain knows what you want to do, figures it out, and it's because the brain sends the signals to all the muscles the way they're supposed to move. All right? So sometimes you might have to think out of the box, get a little radical. This was great. This is a great example of what I've been trying to say to y'all about you got to figure it out for yourself. You got to take the words and turn them into senses and feelings. And Bob did a great job here. Thank you so much. And to that lady that brought that question in, if you're still having a little bit of problem, I would highly recommend. I think this will work without a doubt. Reverse engineering your senses and your feelings to make the swing you want, in this case, to get to the finish. Great job. Let's open up our minds. And if you've got any good thoughts that work for you, send them in as a daily. And I'll do a daily because what worked for you will very likely help somebody else. Somebody might not resonate with them, but it might resonate with them. And the more of these things we got to hand out to the nation to help them figure out ways for their mind to see it, feel it, sense it, the better off everybody will start making better setups, better swings, hitting better shots, and shooting lower scores. Well, that's it for the Search for today, and I'll be talking with you all again soon.